The city was never home to her. Even amidst the human voices, artificial laughter, and concrete walls, there was something that always kept her away, a feeling of not belonging, as if her very blood whispered that it was all a sham. Since she was a child, she had heard things no one else could. Howls in the distance, even on silent nights. The wind seemed to sing her name, and the trees seemed to watch her. At the age of 8, she had her first nightmare. She was alone in the middle of a foggy forest, surrounded by yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. But there was no fear. There was comfort. It was as if those eyes knew her, as if they were there to protect her. As the years passed, the visions intensified. Dreams mingled with memories she'd never experienced. Images of warm fur against the cold snow, of howls in unison under a full moon, of running on paws instead of feet. And then, the most disturbing detail, in an old photo from when she was still a baby, her adoptive mother confessed that they'd found her abandoned near the woods, wrapped in a dirty blanket and surrounded by paw prints. That's when everything started to make sense. She didn't belong to the city. She never did. And now, as the same howls return, louder, closer, she knows she's not just being called, she's being summoned. The forest wants her back, and this time, the wolves are coming together. If you too feel there's something inside you that you've never been able to explain, something wild, ancient, and forgotten, don't ignore it. Perhaps the calling is closer than you think. The story she'd been told was nothing more than a comfortable lie. Her adoptive mother claimed she'd been left on the doorstep of an abandoned house, a desperate act by someone unable to raise her. But the forest said otherwise. Each night, when the howls cut through the silence, something awakened in her. A memory, an image, a feeling of running free, feeling the cold earth beneath her feet. A former resident of the neighboring village revealed a secret. She remembered a stormy night years ago when hunters found a baby near the edge of the woods. The detail that always frightened everyone was simple, but impossible to ignore. The baby wasn't alone. 3 enormous gray wolves surrounded it as if forming a shield. They didn't attack the men, but they didn't retreat either. They watched until the last second, until one of them let out a howl so deep it silenced the entire forest. It was as if they were saying, "Take her, but she will never be yours." Ever since she heard that story, nothing had been the same. Memories began to throb like open wounds. She remembered golden eyes glowing in the dark, a strange warmth amidst the snow, and a rough tongue touching her skin. And then, something even more disturbing, a crescent-shaped scar on her shoulder that looked more like a bite mark than anything else. Now, the wolves were returning. Days before, howls had begun to echo near the city, always at the same time, always from the same direction. It was like a signal. It wasn't a threat, it wasn't a warning, it was a call, an inevitable encounter with something that had never stopped being a part of her. If you've ever felt like there's something inside you waiting to awaken, then you're ready to continue this story. Subscribe to the channel and come hear the next howl. The pack is already returning. The city began to feel it. Dogs barked at nothing. Forest lights flickered on. Their own. Hunters claimed to see silhouettes among the trees, eyes that glowed even without moonlight. But no one spoke out loud about it. It was as if, instinctively, everyone knew something ancient was returning, and that it was not meant to be confronted. She felt the call growing stronger. Her body trembled in the twilight, as if she knew something was approaching. A deep, distant sound echoed like a drum inside her chest. It wasn't fear. It was anticipation. It was the return of something that had always been hers, even when the world tried to erase it. One cold dawn, she heard the closest howl she had ever heard. She left the house barefoot, guided by the sound. The forest no longer seemed hostile. Every tree seemed to acknowledge her presence. Every leaf bowed as she passed. And then she saw them. 5 wolves standing at the edge of the trail, like statues carved from the mist. No growl, no sudden movement. They just stared at her, golden eyes, still, deep, as if they had been waiting, as if they knew exactly who she was. She didn't run away. She walked toward them, and as she approached, a memory flashed through her mind with painful clarity. A snowy night, a warm body beside her, a lonely howl as she was led away. In that moment, she understood everything. They weren't coming back for her. They had returned to remind her of who she had always been. The pack didn't see her as human or lost. To them, she had never stopped being part of the circle, of the blood, of the howl. And at that moment, facing the silent forest, she howled back. The world does not accept what it cannot control. When wolves began appearing closer to the city, authorities took action. Traps were set, torches lit, and fears fueled. The forest, once a forgotten landscape, was now seen as a threat, and it as a dangerous bridge between 2 worlds. They called her to testify. They wanted to know why the wolves were returning, if she was feeding them, if it was some kind of cult. There were no answers that satisfied them, because what she carried couldn't be explained. It was felt. That night, she returned to the forest one last time. The pack waited silently, spread out among the trees like living shadows. The elder wolf approached, his steps slow and his gaze heavy. There was something different about that moment. It wasn't just an encounter, it was a choice. Around her, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The wind ceased, the sounds died. It was as if time had stopped just to hear her decide. Stay or go. Living as a human, or as part of what you always were. She looked back toward the city. This had never been home. It was a prison painted with normalcy. Ahead of her, the living darkness of the forest greeted her with respect, with truth. She took a step forward. The wolf howled. The others followed. And so, she disappeared into the shadows, not like a fugitive, but like someone finally returning home. They say that sometimes at night, you can hear a different howl, softer, more human, and that, if you listen closely, you'll feel something strange in your chest, as if something inside you is being called too. Maybe because it is. Because there are things that cannot be explained. They can only be recognized. If you've felt this restlessness, this whisper that seems to come from within, then you've heard the call too. Subscribe to the channel. The pack never forgets its own. And now, it's closer than ever.